All right, my friends, get ready to free your mind because it's showtime. J.R. Dukes here. Appreciate you joining me. I am here to provide you with commentary so that you can live your best life possible. The way I see it is when you understand better, you can live better. Folks, I've got another great video coming forward in just 1 second. We have to talk about this crazy ruling out of the great state of Colorado involving removing former President Donald Trump off of the ballot. This is absolutely obscene, and it is something that can be very serious. I have stated in a previous video that I think this situation is eventually going to result in sealing the deal as far as electing President Donald Trump as the next president of the United States, because people are outraged, as they rightly should be outraged. However, we need to make sure that this is understood by everybody. The media, the legacy media, even channels right here on YouTube, is not giving you the correct facts. At least they're not giving you all the facts, and I'm going to start changing that as of right now. So without any further ado, we're going to start getting into it by looking at this first video that I have for us. Let's take a listen.
16. And it's not sweet, but that is the number of legal actions filed to keep Trump off state ballots in 2024. Now, I'm actually surprised that number's not higher, frankly, given what we've seen. But suffering from Trump derangement syndrome and a deep, deep anxiety about Biden's mental and physical state, some are even willing to jettison the Constitution, as in your right to protest.
We live under the rule of law in this country, and it's imperative that all Americans accept the decisions of our courts, including the Supreme Court of the United States. It is not an option in the United States of America to protest in the streets decisions of our courts.
What? Did you guys just hear that? Can you believe that? That is a individual on CNN saying, it's obviously some Democratic operative, saying that we don't have the right to protest in the streets over decisions involving the courts. What? Did I just enter the Twilight Zone? What the heck?
State or federal.
Look at the people react. They're like, what did you just say? Since when? Because we know that they love it when certain people take to the streets. The BLM peaceful protests, they were lovely. And the uproar over the Dobbs decision. Burn it down! We don't get it! Burn it down! Burn it down, they were saying. Joining us now to explain the implications of gutting the right to free assembly, free expression, Jonathan Turley, professor of law at GW and a Fox News contributor. Professor, these comments weren't from some random lawyer in town. These were from a former, well-respected conservative judge on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Well, you hear this type of exaggerated claim with a lot of folks in this superheated environment. You have members of Congress, for example, that have said that hate speech is not protected. It is protected. Hate crimes are not protected, but hate speech is. It's hateful. We all denounce it. But the First Amendment is there to protect unpopular speech, even speech that we may condemn. But there is nothing new to this, right? You have Democrats who are now literally running for office on the pledge of censorship. I mean, think about that, right? You have people running for office pledging to citizens that they will reduce their constitutional rights. That's what we have reached as a country. Now, in the end, I think there's enough of us in this country to hold the line, to say that that's not what defines us. What defines us are these common rights, these values. And that means that we often defend others that we disagree with. We don't censor them. We don't arrest them.
Well, I think what we've seen is a panic has set in, because everything they've done, from calling Trump Hitler or Pol Pot or Stalin, whatever the latest is, or saying he's the big threat to democracy, yet the boomerang is thrown by them. They're throwing this claim out at Trump, and then it's coming back and hitting them because they don't seem to really want to trust the voters next year, Jonathan. They do not trust what the outcome of the election will be if it's just let to go.
Well, you know, Laura, the best way to be a defender of democracy is to actually practice democracy.
You know, folks, I think that's exactly right. If you don't know who this Jonathan Turley is, this guy is a big-time lawyer. He was on different committees. Right now, he is a Fox News contributor. He was also interviewed, or gave testimony, I should say, in front of the Senate back when there was one of the Donald Trump impeachment hearings. So this guy's got a pretty level head, and he's got a great legal mind, and I love his quote. I don't want you to lose sight of this. Make sure you hear this. The best way to defend democracy is to practice democracy. Of course, if you want to defend democracy, practice democracy. Really simple, right? This doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. And what do the Democrats want to do? The Democrats are doing everything they can, everything in their power to stop Donald Trump from being on the ballot. They don't want me or you to be able to vote for this man. They think they know best. They think they can stop him by using the court systems. They are throwing everything they can to stop Donald Trump because they know the people are PO'd and the people are not going to take this. And if they're not able to find a way to stop him before Election Day, they are probably going to lose, and they know it.
To actually support it. Just say that citizens need to go to the polls and to argue that they shouldn't vote for Donald Trump or should not vote for Joe Biden. That's democracy in action. But instead, you have 4 justices of the Colorado Supreme Court that want to prevent millions of people from voting for what is currently the leading candidate for the presidency. But you also have people like the New York Times editor that recently said that anyone who questions this ruling is standing with Confederates. No. So you're not standing with the Constitution, you're standing with the Confederacy. And it's that type of overheated rhetoric that we all have to be unified in condemning. Mm-hmm. You know, there were 3 Democratic justices in Colorado that refused to sign on to this. This was the first successful major ruling. Those earlier rulings were also rejected by many Democrats. So there's more unity here than people suggest, but what they hear in this cacophony, particularly on some other networks, is this sort of false narrative. These viewers are hearing that this is a slam dunk, that it's unassailable, that it's clear that he could be taken from this ballot. And and you can understand why those voters get angry when they hear from the courts, no, this is a bridge too far for a democracy.
Now, a quick reaction here, Jonathan.
Folks, imagine what is going on right now. And I want to put it in this context. What if I told you there's a country that has a president, and the current president of this country, it's an unnamed imaginary country, was going to go ahead and run for re-election. However, he had a major challenger. So instead of defeating the challenger at the ballot box, he decided that I'm going to go ahead and weaponize the Justice Department and all of my friends and everybody in my party, and we're going to take out the opposition one way or the other. That's exactly what's happening in the United States. It sounds like something that happens in a third world country. Folks, the United States, unfortunately, we do not have the moral high ground anymore as far as telling other countries how to have free and democratic elections. I believe it was the president of El Salvador that tweeted recently, I guess it's a X platform now, but recently tweeted what I just said. The United States can no longer preach to us about to have elections. Everybody in the world knows what's going on. You have Donald Trump, who's going to be the next president of the United States if they don't find a way to take him out. So the Democrats and these liberal crazies are doing anything and everything they can to stop him. It's just that simple. This is not hard to figure out. It doesn't take a degree to figure this out. Leaders all over the world know the obvious. These people are not stupid. You had President Putin recently say the same thing, talking about how everything is being weaponized and turned against Donald Trump. He's facing 91 felonies. Can you believe that? A former president of the United States, 91 felonies. You know and I know this is nothing but piling on. By the way, my channel is going to follow each and every one of these cases. I've set up an actual spreadsheet to keep track of everything that's going on. So it's going to be a lot to comprehend, but I'm going to try to keep it nice and simple for you and tell you exactly exactly what you need to know. So if you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe so you can be informed as new content comes out, because I'm always producing new content and I will be following all of these cases closely for you. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you share it with other individuals, because that's how the algorithm raises the channel's viewability. And it's so important to get this message out. Everybody is being indoctrinated. People are not being told the truth. And the way you can help me is by what I just said. Go ahead and share this with your family, friends, and anybody you think might benefit from this content. I want to show you one last thing before we go, and that is how unbelievable what's going on is if you compare it to what's going on, let's say, over in Russia. Because over in Russia, they always find a way to make sure that anybody that runs against President Putin disappears, is killed, is dead. And we're going to take a look at this next, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so this is a young lady that's trying to run for president of Russia. Let's see how Russia deals with an opposition candidate. Here we go.
A Russian anti-war former TV journalist has been disqualified from running against President Vladimir Putin in an election next March. Yekaterina Duntsova wanted to run on a platform to end the war in Ukraine and release political prisoners. Video from the Central Electoral Commission showed members voting unanimously to reject her candidacy on Saturday because of alleged flaws in her application to register. Putin's critics said it proved no one with genuine opposition views will be allowed to challenge him in the first presidential election since Russia invaded Ukraine last February. They see the vote as a fake process with only one possible outcome. Duntsova told reporters her team had trouble finding a lawyer to certify the bid after dozens declined. When she said last month she wanted to stand, commentators described her as crazy, brave, or part of a Kremlin-scripted plan to emulate a fair election. In this interview with Reuters in November, she said, "Any sane person taking this step would be afraid, but fear must not win." The Kremlin says Putin will win because he enjoys genuine support across society, with opinion poll ratings of around 80%. Completing another 6-year term would make him Russia's longest-serving ruler since the 18th century, surpassing even Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. Putin's best-known opponent, Alexei Navalny, is serving prison sentences totaling more.
Yeah, this is the guy that was originally going against Putin, the guy on your screen right there. And right now, he is serving time in a prison way up north of the Arctic Circle, basically in Siberia, freezing his you-know-what off. And this is the same individual that Putin apparently tried to kill by poisoning, but survived it. I don't know how he survived that, but he did survive it. And of course, I feel sorry for this next young lady because I'd hate to see something happen to her, but this is what tends to happen in Russian society.
More than 30 years. His supporters say they don't know where he is.
Yeah, they have found him. He is, like I said, serving in another prison way up in the Arctic Circle. Very difficult to get to, very difficult, if not impossible, to communicate with him. I would say his future doesn't look very good, especially in Putin's Russia. And this young lady that's brave enough to stand up and run against President Putin, she was not allowed to do so. She didn't even really have an easy time finding an attorney. What do they say? She went through 30 attorneys or contacted 30 different individuals and they all declined to represent her. Of course they did. They want to live. They want to breathe. They don't want to be tortured or killed or the same thing happen to their families. And folks, the sad thing here, effectively the same thing is now happening in our country that is happening in Russia. You can't say that they're two different things. The result is the same. You have Russia imprisoning the opposition. In America, we have the current Joe Biden administration trying to imprison Donald Trump. In Russia, you have a young lady that has outright been denied the opportunity to run against Prime Minister Putin. And in America, we just now have the Colorado Supreme Court say Donald Trump is not entitled to even run. So imagine this. You have me as a Florida Florida citizen not able to vote for the person I want as president of the United States because a judge, an unelected Democratic judge in Colorado, said he cannot run because they have judged him as being guilty of something he's never been convicted for. He has not even been charged with insurrection. Jack Smith never charged him with insurrection. There's other crimes, of course, he has been charged with, but he has not been found guilty of anything. And you might ask, oh, well, how does that stop me as a Florida resident from voting for Donald Trump as president? Well, it's quite simple. If he's not able to get on the ballot in Colorado and other states, and he doesn't win enough electors to receive the Republican nomination, well, then he's not going to appear on the Republican ballot in the state of Florida. I'm going to talk in another video about what will happen if this case is allowed to stand. I'm hoping that's not the case, but I will go into it in detail and tell you exactly what would happen if Donald Trump was not allowed to run for president. Hopefully this changes, and I hope you found this information informative. At any rate, my friends, I always tell you to keep that front in mind and never give up. I am J.R. Dukes.